He was kind of pissed off and standing on top of the wall. My fear was he decides he doesn't like what I'm up to and jumps down off the wall, and then I got to start fighting a damn dog. Today I'd like to share with you a little bit of winch line maintenance. If you have a synthetic winch line, the thing can get dirty. It can get infused with mud, dust, sediment that is all over time damaging to the line. As you're pulling tension, releasing tension, all those particles in there are kind of sawing on the synthetic fibers. So from time to time it needs to be rinsed off, washed off. It's a pretty simple process. Not terribly complex, but you just do kind of have to block out the time to do it. So I'm gonna kind of walk you through that and see how really simple it is. For starters, one thing I like to do, I got a little paranoid because a long time ago, my first winch was a shitty winch. Really discount piece of crap. Kind of learned my lesson though. But that thing would just magically decide to stop working. So now, anytime before I'm going to spool this line all the way out, I want to make sure it works. It does. So that I can get it back in. So everything works. I'm going to put the thing in neutral and pull it all out and get started. Yeah, all this mud, that's all got to come off. It's going to blacken up my hands. I need gloves. And we're also going to add to this, once I'm done with the cleaning, properly retensioning the line. Pull it out. They say leave 8 to 10 winds around the drum. I like to get it down to the whole first layer across rather than counting coils. That's just me because I'm kind of lazy that way, and I can make sure I don't bonehead something up. And a little trick, I don't know about all lines, this come up line turns red at the safe extraction point, safe unspooling point. So here's the red, and there are 1, 2, 3. With the red out, right before the red comes out, there's 11 winds still on. Now that the red's showing, there's 10 winds. Around the drum, so I'll stop there. And it's on a little over half the drum. Maybe 2/3 of the drum is covered still by winds. So if your rope doesn't have a marking, you can use that as a guide. You can count the coils, or you can just say first layer, leave that, although that might be like 15 winds, but still keeps you safe. What you don't want to do is unwind too much, because then everything can slip on the drum and not seat correctly. So I'm going to get a bucket, fill it up with water. And while that's filling, take the line, just drop it in the water. No magic to it. All you need to do is get it all in the water and rinse it around. Clean off the driveway. It's been raining here in Phoenix, and my truck still had some mud on it from last trip. It's now all over my driveway. Just going to pull this out and kind of feed it through my hand and rinse it and rub it off. Probably overkill. So now the water's pretty murky because of all the shit coming out of this rope. So, once I get all this line out of here, I'm going to do it again. I like to, and again it's probably overkill, but I like to do this a couple times so the water comes out clear or mostly clear. And of course there's going to be a big ass tangle. And here's the sleeve. Scoot the sleeve down a little bit. A little dunk and a rub. Now, spill out that dirty water. Rope back in. Again, it's people a lot smarter than me say that one rinse is good enough, but I like to do it till I see clean water, that I know everything's out of there. No soaps, no crap, not necessary. All this water is sudsing up, probably from Dragon Lady washing her car. That last dump, there was just a tiny bit of sediment left in the bucket when I poured that out. Such a small amount that I'm going to call that good. And I'm going to bunch this thing up. I'm going to tension it by pulling Dragon Lady's car into the winch. And we got to go around the corner to do that. So a nice long stretch of fairly empty little residential street there. So I'm going to get that ready to go. Shut off the water because it's been raining and I'm just adding to the mess. And that should stay there while we drive around the corner. That's about it. Another point I should make about this synthetic versus steel line and all that business. The giant trade-off for all of what, in my opinion, are the superiorities of the synthetic line. The drawback is this sort of maintenance. It's got to be spooled and tensioned correctly after every use. Get it dirty enough, muddy enough, dusty enough, with particularly if you go through really murky sediment-filled water. That entire line will be saturated with that sediment. It needs this done to it occasionally. And if it gets pretty well covered in mud too. Especially if it's out and dragging through the dirt, dragging through mud, it's going to get pretty well saturated. So you need to do this maintenance. The steel line doesn't really require this, but then the steel line has all of its drawbacks. It's up to you to decide if you do go with synthetic. You get this for your trouble. But again, this is the only drawback that I know of. So we're going to drive around the corner. Awesome. I picked a spot with a super pissed off dog standing on top of the wall. So I'm going to move up the road just a touch. Okay. Good boy, calm down. Got off the wall. My fear was he was kind of pissed off. And standing on top of the wall, my fear was he decides he doesn't like what I'm up to and jumps down off the wall. And then I got to start fighting a damn dog. Well, this thing's still running. It started to rain again, and this is not a get wet camera. I'm going to move this out here so you can see what I'm doing with. It's just this super fine misty drizzle. Okay, so Dragon Lady's down there out at the end of the winch line, and what you want to do, make sure you got your gloves on. And I've got her set up, her car's in neutral with about half, a little over half of her parking brake on. So I get enough resistance to put some tension on the line, but not maximal. Her tires won't be skidding. And my hands are wet since gloves. There we go. Turn on the remote. Clean off the fair lead so I don't re-dirty up the line as it goes in. Now what I'm going to want to do is, as it goes, keep an eye on. Good, I can see it from here. Keep an eye on the line and keep it fed up tight against the coils. And when you get to the one end, start feeding it back, pulling it back. as that car starts getting closer, I got to keep watching, because I don't want to winch her right into my head. Yes, I stepped over a tension line. Don't ever do that under heavy load. This is still pretty light load, and it was a quick step. And like I say, it's not that heavy a load, but that is generally an unsafe practice, so bear in mind. I recognize that I took the risk. So you can now see Dragon Lady's kind of in the picture. And we're going to bring it in the last little bit. And now, so what's happened as she's gotten closer, and because I'm way off on that corner on her car, before it got to that end of the spool, it started pulling back this way because everything's now at this angle. But that's okay for this last little bit. In fact, only about another 5 feet, and I'm just going to go loose and pull it up that way. So it's fine where it's at. So get Dragon Lady to come up, take the tension off. I'm going to put the last bit in. So within that last wind, it's not critical that that stay perfectly symmetrical across the drum. That top layer, that's quite all right. And then lock it down, add just that little bit of tension to keep the hook locked. And we're all done. That's it. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So there you go. We're done. We're back home. Time for weekend grocery shopping. That's the long and short of it. The important part about tensioning, the reason it's important to properly tension, wind and tension that rope on the spool, is if it's loose enough and some gaps enough in from one layer of spooling to the next, if you put a load on it and there's slack enough in all of that, it can, under load then, collapse. That top layer where the tension is can collapse down below between the strands of another layer, and it can cascade down like that. You can wind up with a pretty nasty tangle that potentially, well, regardless, if you get a tangle, it's going to be a hassle at best. It could be unrecoverable, and then you've got a rather expensive situation going on, and time consuming, and you're not going to be able to complete the recovery because that winch will become unusable, potentially become unusable. Yeah, and the worst case scenario is the winch has to come out of the bumper, cut the line off and install a new line if it's tangled up badly enough. At the very minimum, everything's got to come apart and get untangled, which is going to be a real hassle. So, that's about it. Otherwise, it's all real easy. Take the time to do it right. Save yourself that hassle out on the trail. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped.